So we'll open up, this is the Bristol Planning Commission June meeting. It is 7:02 and we'll open up the meeting, call it to order, I'm sorry. First item is, our second item is to review the agenda for any additions, removals, adjustments of any items. Does anybody have anything? I would just say that, since, oh man. Since Adam isn't here yet, maybe we would skip down to item 6. And then we would revert back up to item 7. Wait a minute,
Oh, that might be a typo.
what is this?
My bad.
Administrative matters.
Administrative matters, which is item 5, I believe. If
Yes.
I can count.
Yes.
So we'll go through public comment and then we'll jump down to administrative matters and then go back to new business when Adam shows up, if everybody's agreeable with that. Okay. So I guess the next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to, again, we'll skip new business and go on to administrative matters. The first item is to approve the minutes of May 20th. The minutes are here and I think they were sent out with a package. So I guess anybody have any questions or clarifications to the minutes?
I'm gonna abstain because I was only here for maybe not even half the meeting,
Okay.
and I think most of the substantive stuff was after I
You
left.
know, the ironic thing about minutes is you don't have to make a motion. All you do is review them. So we get hung up on this procedural thing for minutes and it's
Yeah,
not
it's only if you need to correct it.
right.
Yeah, not approval.
Okay, so all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
And anybody opposed or no, yeah, opposed? Anybody abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
John's abstaining. Okay. I'm not very good about making sure Carol knows who's in attendance and that sort of thing,
She's pretty good with it.
because she knows who's here.
Yeah.
Okay. Or do
Unless
you fill her in with that? Or not?
no, she's pretty good on
Okay.
knowing who's here based on the video.
Okay. Next item is PZA June zoning report. That's you, AZ.
Yeah. Pretty slow actually. Not as busy as I thought. Some shops, some decks. Yeah. Pretty smooth. There is something I want to talk about, but it will come up with our accessory dwelling unit conversation.
Okay.
And I'll save it for that.
Any questions, comments for AZ?
No.
Okay. So I had a question, and maybe is this the right place to do it, or we do it for discussions? What's the status of the EV charger? Is that,
The bylaw,
yeah, the interim bylaw?
still working on definitions. Need to hear back from Adam
Okay,
at RPC, but he's a little busy with the Act 181 future land use mapping. There's also the project that kind of spurred this whole need for the bylaw is kind of stagnated. And also the federal kind of cuts to funding for EVs has kind of also removed any kind of incentives to push EVs, so it's kind of in a holding pattern right now.
so that project in hand's at risk?
It's up in the air. The developers say that it's fine, but also, as we know, federal funding has kind of been a little all over the place.
Yeah.
And a little touch and go. So sometimes it's like, yes, we have the funding, and then it's all of a sudden gone. So a lot of things are kind of up in the air.
Okay, so I
Still-
think.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a little bit of time, we can not rehash the whole thing, but I think it's pretty important to keep going on it regardless of this specific example, because I think it's pertinent to have the regs updated.
I agree.
So it's just, you're just getting stuff together to present to the select board then?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Working on hashing out the language on the definitions that we kind of had talked about at the last wrapping up of that
Hmm.
bylaw, of just making sure the definitions are catching what we want. What is a port? What is a charger? Making sure those definitions are clear, and then putting together kind of the package for the select board of, we need to do public hearings, making sure that those are warned and everyone knows about them, and getting all that together as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for you, Zeke? We have any miscellaneous correspondence?
Not really, nothing that's been directed at the planning commission.
Okay. We're waiting for our guest speaker.
I can show you guys my workshopping for a new zoning permit.
Sure.
If you guys want to give feedback. I've been looking at other towns' zoning permit applications. And there's some new requirements for the residential building energy standards that were passed last June. That apply to pretty much anything you want to do with a heated or cooled structure. If you're renovating it, altering it, building a new one, changing it slightly, it's gonna get caught by this. So making sure that applicants and landowners are aware of those standards. This is just a workshop draft that I'm working on. I took our current zoning permit application and put it into kind of a new format, and I will be adjusting some things here and there. I want to make this application understandable to an applicant, but also gives them all the information they need to know what they need to submit for a complete application. So I'm not chasing people down going, wait a minute, you needed this part of the application when they thought they submitted a full one. So far, making sure we have access, water, energy standards, dimensions for setbacks and for the structure. And then this is still in the workshop, still a little wordy. But I've been taking reference from other towns. For example, the town of Westford. I actually met their zoning administrator at the spring planning and zoning forum. She was really lovely. But taking example from other towns of what is on their applications, Westford and Milton. Milton's zoning application is very full of information, but taking these as example and trying to work those into a new zoning application. So it's clear to the applicant, it's smoother for me in the review process. But so far, all I have is this for now. And I'm workshopping of doing just like a general permit form and then separating out applications that go to the DRB. So it's even more clear for applicants who need to go before the DRB, the requirements, as it's more in depth than a permitted review. There's more information needed for the DRB. But for now, focusing on how to get as much information to the applicant on the front end. Yeah, that's what I've been working on in the background. Fun stuff. Fun stuff.
It's good.
Thanks.
is that a controlled, I hate this, I don't even know if I want to say this, is that a controlled form? So does somebody have to approve that?
No, it's under my authority, but I'm just
Okay.
looking for feedback.
Oh, I understand that, but I was just wondering if I worked in an environment that there was this whole approval process. If you
Yeah, I
to change a word in a document. You know.
yeah, I wondered about that when I was first workshopping it. And I looked through there is actually a new zoning administrator handbook that has been finally amended after 23 years, which is very exciting. Um, and I looked through that handbook and I talked to the RPC and I was like, do I need to do anything or can I change this? And it is the zoning administrator's purview and discretion to change the forms. They do recommend that you don't willy-nilly just like change them all the time. Hence why I'm still workshopping this and I haven't just changed it over because I don't want to throw applicants for a loop by throwing like 20 different forms at them when I'm trying to figure out what works best. But
If you want to throw a sample at me, I've filled in a lot of those myself and I can pretend I was filling in for past project and see
yeah,
what might fall out of that process.
yeah, I think that would be helpful. It's just I want to, especially thinking about like landowners who are looking to simply just maybe put a deck on their house, which compared to building a single family home, two different review levels and impact as well. And working on doing an FAQ for the website that will also help folks understand when they need a permit, when they don't need a permit, and working on that. Yeah, just trying to make it so everyone knows what's going on and everyone's on the same page.
Good.
So you have the wastewater septic permit, access permit, all that stuff. Do they all usually have those permits in hand when they come for the zoning permit?
For an access permit, sometimes, I just had an applicant actually on the zoning report, you'll see that there was a right of way, access permit approved by the select board. I received those applications concurrently, but waited to review the building permit until the access permit was approved, because you can't really have a house if you don't have an approved driveway. So applicants can submit concurrently. That's why I have that little concurrent application. So that so applicants can know that, okay, we're submitting all this together for concurrent reviews. But for a single family home, yes, wastewater should be at least submitted prior to.
So will you typically go back and fill that in after the fact?
Um,
Cause I know that process can take
Yeah.
longer sometimes than what the zoning process might take.
yeah, usually, yeah. Usually I get the wastewater permit number. And if it's been submitted and they have that number, I'll go forward with the review. If they haven't submitted anything, I won't, because I don't.
What is it, the application still? Isn't this permit say that you need to get all those other permits and that's outside of this permit anyway?
Yeah,
I mean, everybody can't be the last one to the table, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everybody wants to be, right? Everybody needs to say you need to have all your other permits first
yeah,
before you come get this one, but you can't get any if they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
right?
yeah. That's why I usually go like if you've submitted your wastewater,
If
I'll
the
go
process.
if it's in process,
Okay.
because if it gets denied, then
Same thing with drinking water.
yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, true.
But-
That needs to say wastewater, septic, and potable water supply. And I'll make one for folks who are connecting to the water line as well, new connections. which aren't as many. I've only done one allocation letter this year for water connections. But that's a good question. Yeah. Send out an email.
Well, no, sure.
Daisy, do you do one zoning permit application for residential versus commercial? Because commercial,
Yeah,
commercial, they may need public building, they may need active fifty, I mean, I don't know, but.
yeah.
Just combine it in one.
It's been combined as one. That's why I'm workshopping a new one, because currently we just have one application for everything.
Okay.
Which works, but also one application for everything is not necessarily going to catch everything.
Right.
And my idea has been to split it out to like a general permit for your accessory structures, single-family homes, duplexes, things that are more by right, than having a DRB application for your conditional uses, site plan, subdivision, anything that is going to go before the DRB. And then maybe doing a commercial one would be good for those who are doing more. Most commercial uses go to site plan or DRB anyways. Just because they are a bigger impact and they're gonna get site plan review or conditional use anyways.
Mhm.
Hence why wanting to break out the applications from everything all at once to like a clear, like, okay, you're going through the development review process. Here's what you need to do. You need a site plan. You need to answer the questions on hours of operation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Workshopping it.
So Michelle is on the select board. I think probably most of you people know that. So the other hidden little secret is the select board has divvies up with all the select board members to be liaisons with certain boards and commissions, all that sort of stuff. So Michelle has been our liaison to the select board since I've been involved. And yeah. And so and I think I dropped the ball a little bit with some of the changes we've had with people and whatnot. But she's the one that kind of interfaces, if you will, if there's anything to be done or brought before or gleaned from our normal operations. So you checking with Adam? Yeah.
Did he forget?
I would hope not. I mean, he was the one who requested that he come today to talk about
Yeah.
the future land use mapping.
Because we really had all the new business
Was
relies
Adam.
on him.
Can you talk about the ADU stuff without it?
Well, we could try, but I don't know. I think my understanding is that you were talking with him about some of your interpretations, so it's kind of important for him to perhaps rationalize some of the commentary he's given AZ.
So we've had many conversations with.
We've had too
Adam
many.
about ADUs.
Oh, yeah, we spent.
We thought we had it settled and then it wasn't, so.
Casey and I had talked the other day and I got your
And I
email.
apologize, I was out of town for the better
No,
part of last
that's
week,
okay.
so
I
I
was
haven't
like-
responded yet.
Kevin's asking here. I was
Hmm.
trying to interpret it, and then I talked to AZ. So, and then I talked to Kevin Brown, because I was like, I think she's right. On her assessment of the 20-foot, the extra 20-foot setback, so we kind of hashed that out. And he said, yeah, I think she's right. And I think they said that we need to fix that other bullet blurb.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't want to open the whole floor up for
Yeah.
discussion. But there was a permit that I approved for an accessory dwelling unit. In the commercial district, which I know ADUs are not allowed here. And when the person was like, I want to do that, I was like, that's not allowed in the commercial district. And the applicant went through the zoning regulations themselves and then brought back to me. A little line that is underneath the section,
404.
the section 404 that says any. Accessory dwelling unit that meets the above criteria is a permitted use in all districts. Which
And you did it right.
and I, when they first brought it up to me, I was like, it's in the commercial district, that's not allowed. But that line in section 404 that says a permitted use in all districts if they meet the above criteria.
So,
It didn't accept out commercial districts and it doesn't even in.
The Bristol
commercial
Pond,
districts,
yeah.
it's, you know, it's not a permitted use, so technically it's not allowed, but with that in there,
Yeah, which is,
kind of. we
so
missed
it's
that.
not allowed in a commercial district because we don't allow single family houses?
Right.
Is that
yes,
Yeah,
But-
commercial non-residential districts.
yeah,
Those-
but that line at the bottom of section 404 that says any accessory dwelling unit that meets the above criteria is a permitted use in all districts,
We missed that.
which,
All the people that read that, we all missed it.
yeah,
Well, it's probably
And-
not specific enough that it just needed to say where single
Within
family
that
homes are
In
allowed.
all
Yeah.
residential districts.
Yeah,
but since it
One word
doesn't,
difference, in
yeah.
all residential districts.
since it doesn't. I
And there's
couldn't deny
nothing-
it,
saying it had above that, saying it had to be in a residential district.
No.
yeah,
But-
so I couldn't deny the application because it
Well-
does conform to the zoning regulations that are
So-
written.
Yeah, so our zoning regulations are in a sense less restrictive than the state enabling statute. If it says that.
I mean, does the state statute say in all districts? It has to
No,
be
it
a
says
permitted
where.
use.
No, it says
where-
wherever there's a single family home,
housing.
but what I'm saying is that.
Well, then in the commercial district, there isn't a single family home, so
There is
So-
existing single family homes in the commercial district.
grandfathered in, but you
Yeah.
couldn't get a new one.
No,
Right, so.
but again,
That's the interpretation. If that's what the state statute says, any place where a single family home. Oh, well, that's not in the commercial system.
But the statute also
Or reg-
says you can make things less restrictive than what the statute requires.
Well, we didn't do that.
Well,
I mean,
That wasn't our intention, but unfortunately, that's what that Florida
That
allows.
club is less restrictive.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would might be the first order.
Yeah,
Somebody
and-
fix that.
yeah.
I think I've been reading that statute for years, our 404, and, always assumed that it means. Wherever housing is allowed, because it's assumed in commercial that there isn't housing unless it's grandfathered in, but.
Unfortunately,
I mean,
we
it
can't make
just-
assumptions because people read it differently.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I will say,
Well, we-
also in the way the zoning regulations is printed. This is section 404,
It's on the next page.
this is the sentence right here. So, I wanna bring it up because the applicant, I said, that's not allowed in the commercial district. And the applicant read through the zoning regulations and brought that one line to me and said, this is what it says. Their application met all the requirements, they live in a single family residence, they have septic capacity. The bedrooms are less, they meet the setbacks, they have everything in the section, they meet the criteria. And that line says,
Except it's a further, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and accept it, but to me, it's also it's a movement away from compliance if it's in the commercial district to add residential use in the. Commercial district where it's not, where it may be grandfathered, but it isn't allowed now.
but it is allowed because of this one
For an
line
ADU,
for an ADU.
for ADU, not a single family
Wouldn't
residence.
that, isn't there, I thought there was something in there about non-conforming grandfathered things that can't be made any more non-conforming.
That's what I'm
So it
saying,
wouldn't be non-conforming because it allowed.
Well, it'd be making it more non-conforming.
because it's allowing more
new
housing, new
New
housing,
dwelling.
yeah, it makes it more non-conforming.
No,
That
because
is-
because that sentence right there says it's allowed. It's not making it more non-conforming, that sentence makes it allowed in that district.
Now, if they wanted to expand their home, if they wanted to add the ADU onto their home, that would be enlarging a non-conforming pre-existing single-family home. But because they're doing a detached accessory dwelling unit,
As in a new structure?
yeah,
Is it just this one example at the moment? It's like this is the one case or whatever?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
Like a lot of people.
For other people to do this?
We could, as
In
of
the
now,
commercial
we could
district?
quickly
Yeah.
add the word residential or whatever the fix is.
not really. I mean, there's not a lot of homes in the commercial
The
district.
commercial district,
Right.
right.
But
So we could clarify that through the process. It
Yeah.
would take until election day in November, probably, if we got on it now, but whatever, it could probably be done.
Well, there may be some other things that
Be pretty-
Yeah.
he wants.
Yeah, it'd be pretty
Yes,
non-controversial.
but
If we
yeah,
were
well
going that,
done.
you know, there's another thing that is, you know, and we have talked about this, I grant you that, but I watched the conversation you guys had last week, via the video on demand, thank God for Neat TV, you know, and I have watched the ADU conversation you guys had, and I observed like some of the confusion that we've all experienced around the conversation, you know, and a lot of that experience comes from this cutting of the ADU section as it existed prior to 2020.
So
Like-
Don, we're not, no,
Well-
so let me back up. So I was gonna have a preamble as to our discussion. So it needs to be based on the current statutes and it needs to be based on our current URD.
What have I said?
Or any
Well,
sort
it's
of
not
reference.
based
So
on
you're
current
going off
statute.
on something that was changed in the zoning regs. I don't wanna talk about what
Well, I
has
don't really
been.
know, I was only.
I
2 cents
don't
from
wanna
him.
talk about what has been or what can be. We're talking about what we have right now.
So what are we talking about? We're just
So-
rambling around waiting for our guest, right?
We're talking about
not on the
ADUs,
agenda,
we're talking
right?
about ADUs, we're talking about the fact in 404, as it's currently written. There is a clause that all of a sudden we're deciding is not maybe appropriate.
I get that, and I thought we'd come to a good sort of. Not a conclusion, but an ending place of that conversation, which is why I introduced the other thing, but if there's
But-
more to be said on that first subject, fine. But I would love to talk about another thing about.
No.
404, well, I would just love to reflect on. the
No.
Why not? Why am I
Because-
singled out for no?
I am talking about what we have for 404 today, not what has been or might be.
Yes, and I'm pointing something out that's missing in 404 today. And you're not open to that conversation?
It is the way it's written today.
Well, so what does that mean? I can't speak to some issue.
You can speak to how it's written today.
Yeah, it leaves something out. It's written today, it leaves something important out, which is that. We have an unregulated type of ADU development, which is when an accessory structure, which is one kind of use. Gets added to, an ADU gets added to an existing accessory structure, so you have an accessory dwelling unit, which is a separate definition than auxiliary structure. You don't have guidance on that because of this eliminated language. So when somebody comes in, I want to take my garage. And the existing single story structure, auxiliary accessory structure. And put an ADU on top of it, that's two uses. Just because you attach an ADU to it doesn't eliminate the other use. And I think you're getting stuck occasionally when somebody comes along who says, I'd like to do this 2-story thing, add another use to this first use that's here. Or build something new that is a workshop or a garage below new and a new ADU on top. Our regs don't deal with that. It's a loophole that was, I think, inadvertently created when the regs changed in 2020. And it leaves confusion, including by Chris Purley, who admitted that when he went to review an ADU application, he was lacking guidance, is what he said in a public meeting.
So the problem, so we're deviating, John. So Chris Purley cannot say he's lacking guidance because if it's not black and white,
Well,
it
it's what he
needs to
said in
be
the public
deferred.
hearing on the record.
he said he needs to say, he can only make a judgment if it's black and white in the regs.
Right,
So-
and it wasn't then because.
So he
just
shouldn't have
prior
made
to
a
that-
judgment.
Just prior to that decision, an application came through that didn't fit what was then remaining in the regs, which didn't provide for this ADU added to an accessory structure like a garage or a workshop. And so that's an unregulated thing in Bristol right now, and I think you're bumping into, like you found the working.
Isn't that still regulated by the accessory structure and the guidance on that, and the ADU is a use within that, and there's guidance on that.
You know
No,
what?
no, ADU and accessory structure are two different uses.
They're two different uses.
They stand alone as uses. You can have a building, let's say you have a yard and you want to, in the village, you want to put an ADU on it. There's nothing there now. That's an ADU.
Yeah.
If you want to put a garage and then ADU on top, all new, that's two uses. That's it.
So
But
we're
it's still an accessory structure on that,
And an ADU, so it's two uses.
but that's a use within the
So,
accessory
John,
structure.
John,
I
can
don't
you
know what
tell
it
us,
is within the.
Oh,
accessory
John.
structure. They're two different uses.
can you
It's not-
show us in the regs where it says you need to have a separate use permit if you put a ADU in?
This is the issue. It used to have guidance for people that was more permissive than the state. So, for example, the way the regs used to read, it would say, that somebody comes along, I want to have an ADU. Are you resident in the main house? No. Well, you can't have one, right? End of story. You can't have one, right? That's right. So it used to say in the regs that if you were disqualified from having an ADU.
So no, we're not gonna talk about,
I,
we went through, I'm telling you, John, we're talking about what we currently have, not what we had. What we currently have.
so we can't point out a need and try to address it.
No,
Why not?
because we're talking about what we have in effect right now. And if you look at, and if you go back to your existing thing, section 4412 talks specifically about putting an ADU in existing, they call it detached non-residential.
What are you reading from?
building.
I'm sorry.
This is 4412.
Oh, I actually printed
What
them out.
4412 from our
That's the
regs?
state, yeah, that's the state statute.
Regs. So but are these proposed?
No, it's the
Okay.
state statute.
I did print these out for everyone. This is 4412 section E. That is the state regs currently.
Thanks.
And John, I will say, what I bump into the most is now when folks want to convert an existing accessory structure, that's pretty easy. That's a
No, that should be easy.
that
I agree.
yeah, that is easy in the regs. What I'm bumping up into is when people are building new detached ADUs that are simply an ADU. Because the state guidance is a little, it's there in 4412, but they only really call out existing structures. They don't really talk about new structures. There's not a lot of state guidance on that. There's not a lot of guidance really anywhere. So, and an accessory dwelling unit is an accessory structure, right? But if you're applying for an ADU, you're applying for the structure and the use concurrently. The ADU is going to be in that structure and use. But there isn't a lot of state guidance on those. They cover existing, but not really new.
What is the guidance that's missing?
I
Because
Nice.
everything would still fall under accessory structure, there's a height and size restriction.
yeah.
And the ADU is restricted by those guidelines in how much of that structure, if it is bigger than the maximum allowable ADU size, can be used for ADU as
Yeah.
opposed to another use of
Yeah.
storage or whatever.
Yeah. I guess for me it's
Isn't it more the conflict between our regs and the state regs?
Yeah.
Where our regs say the ADU must be 20 feet back
yeah,
from the setbacks of the house.
yeah.
Which
That's
was totally confusing AZ, and when her and I were talking, I was like. And I looked at the 4412 and we're like, yeah, I think she's right. I
Yeah.
think
So
it's-
is that
we're
gonna
making
be
it more
history then?
restrictive.
Is that history for our regulations now to have a 20-foot setback in?
Well, no, that's, what I'm saying is what our ADU regs say, what we currently have says it's gotta be 20 foot
Right,
further back.
and
than
is
what
that,
the
but that was
setback.
overturned, have I got this right, I mean, I'm missing.
No, it wasn't overturned, the select board at one point said, well, we all talked about maybe making them all the same setbacks. And then once we got started talking about it, we said, well, that really restricts those who have pre-existing non-conforming buildings who would never be able to convert to an ADU, which therefore would then restrict the available housing.
Mhm.
So that's why we said, well, let's just leave it to what you guys had originally suggested, which was the 20 foot.
But now a structure's being built out within those. Is that
I'm gonna call
correct? If
it.
somebody's building something, does not have the 20 foot setback? And, that's
I
not
think,
true.
I think AZ had issued a permit for an ADU and I can't remember what the whole situation was, but most places here don't have a 60 foot setback to then put in the ADU, but we're also looking at the 4412 and saying, well, it can't be more restrictive than the single family residence.
I see.
And you put that 20 foot setback on the ADU, that's more restrictive than the single family residence. So that's the,
Well, there's the general idea of having it more, less, what's the word they use? It's submissive, so not submissive, but. Look,
Subordinate to.
subordinate
Yeah.
to, so. What's gonna be subordinate if you don't do this, you can't restrict it in any way, it says though to be subordinate, which means it should be smaller. And
right, which it is, our, our square footage and percentage and all that is, it is smaller based on that, but it's like. Okay, well, how many, most of them we're talking about in the village here, the lots are small.
Yeah,
They're not gonna be able to put one right next to a single family residence, cause they're not gonna have the room, right?
generally speaking,
Yeah.
for sure. But it's just so, it's, okay, sometimes
It's just-
loose is better, but I
Yeah.
don't know.
Once we had a way of dealing with the properties that wanted an ADU but didn't meet the regs for one. And-
No, we're not talking about once, we're talking about we currently have.
And so if I could finish my
No.
thought, please. Really? Is
We're
that
talking about the
how
current.
how iron fisted you wanna be?
I'm gonna-
We're not
yes,
on
we're-
the agenda, I enjoyed your conversation about ADUs last week, and I was trying to ask something about it and make a commentary on it. Why we're outside the normal meeting structure. I don't get the authoritarianism of it.
We are not, I want to talk about what we currently have, not what we had.
So you're not interested in aspirations for the future?
When we talk about it in the future, we talk about that. It's not pertinent to what we have right now.
I don't understand pertinent to what are we discussing?
We are discussing 4412.
So Adam put this meeting in his calendar for Thursday, not today, and he is currently in Massachusetts.
He will not be attending.
So he will not be attending, and he apologizes for the scheduling mishap. And in terms of the meeting tonight, Adam will not be here. So
Okay, so let's have some closing comments on this, and
Yep.
I think we still need his input
Yep, I agree.
to do this, but, did you finish what you were talking about, Ron?
I think so. I was just looking at this and I think that. It could be clearer with that stuff because. It just. With 4412, it talks to existing and the. The more restrictive shall not be more restrictive is in the sentence about conversion of an existing, so.
So what, from my point of view, 4412 talks about existing.
Yeah.
Does not allow a new situation. But our 404 talks about a new situation. So I think there is a perspective or a position that since a new structure could be construed as being less restrictive because the statute doesn't cover new. And then we have in the 404, we have in our regs, you can put it in with these parameters. I'm thinking, just my position is that you can put in a new accessory structure with those limitations, 20 foot setback and
A
the
structure or a dwelling, two different things.
structure.
Okay, like a garage or. a
Garage, whatever it
workshop.
is, and you can there's no restriction on what you can put an ADU in, if it's an accessory structure.
But there's the two different uses. I don't see how we conflate those two uses. I wasn't allowed to finish my thoughts. So I sat quietly for a few minutes before you talked. You're conflating two things. Our regs in the definitions has a definition for accessory structure. It's one thing.
Mhm.
It also has a definition for ADU. It's a different thing. And when you add ADU to say a single family home, it doesn't turn the whole single family home into an ADU, nor does it turn any other use into something it's not. So when you add an ADU to say a garage or a workshop, either side by side or on top, you have two uses. And what we're lacking in our regs is a way to deal with that. And therefore it was completely unregulated and it already has provoked
let's-
problems.
So, but that's what I was saying before, I think it is regulated in the accessory structure guidelines, because the ADU is within that, it doesn't
Where
matter.
do you cite me that language? Show me how putting an ADU on something makes the ADU trump the other use.
It
Show
doesn't
me
make
in
it
the
trump
regs.
anything.
Well, then why don't we pay attention to the use that's already there if it's an existing, say, garage? Or if somebody wants to build a new garage with an ADU, that's a different animal.
But I think,
It's
John,
not just an ADU, it's
if you-
structure and
As
development.
long as the accessory structure meets the accessory structure guidelines and the ADU meets the ADU guidelines within that accessory structure, where's the?
Well, that's two
What's the
uses.
problem?
The problem
Is
is,
there something that says you can't do two
yeah,
uses in
go
one
talk
use
to the
structure?
neighbors on.
No, John,
Where the-
John.
Well, can we
No.
not learn from the past, Mr.
No,
No,
We're
spoken like a
talking
true
about-
conservative.
we're talking
Spoken like a
about,
true conservative. Cannot learn from the past.
and I voted for Trump too.
Amazing comment. Cannot
No.
learn from the past.
No, so.
Tells it all.
Why?
John,
So-
John,
We have a
I'm trying to
history.
figure out how we move forward. here.
So.
Yes, I am too.
I think that.
And there's a wrong assumption here. There's nothing in state statute that says an accessory, an ADU, when you put it on top of a garage, makes the garage use disappear. Show it to me in the statute. It
Nobody's-
doesn't exist.
No one's
And-
saying that.
Well, so we don't have a way of dealing with those things.
But
What
In
do
this
what do you mean?
John, if you
When-
put it in a house is a use, you put an ADU in a house, what's the difference?
There are differences. The state deals with them differently. There's 5 different scenarios where you can have an ADU. You can put it in a house. You could put it like as a new addition to a house. You could convert part of the house. That's the first. Oh, I haven't written down it. Anyway,
So this is my job.
yes.
I do this every day.
Yeah, and I've been in it for about 25 years in zoning as an applicant and as a litigant,
Mhm.
and a successful litigant against a major project,
I
and as a participant in lots of things. So yes, I
Yeah.
I respect your credentials.
Let's, John's
Respect
got
mine.
John's got
I-
the floor right now.
okay.
Um. So there's 5 scenarios where you can have an ADU. This is what the state statute contemplates. Inside an existing dwelling where you take like part of your house and you turn it into a minor apartment, and that's an ADU. That's 1. 2, a new addition to existing dwelling. So you have a house and you put a little addition, and that's the ADU. 2. 3, construction of a new standalone ADU in the yard. Like it's just one building, it's one unit. That's all it does. It's just an ADU. It's a dwelling unit. 4,
So can I?
Well, let me get, let's
If
get
I
to
may,
five,
okay.
4, conversion of an existing standalone auxiliary structure, like say a garage,
Mhm.
into an ADU. And then there's a 5th scenario for developing ADUs, which is a new addition to an existing auxiliary structure, which is an established use. Both of which are permitted in our regs, no problem. I have no problem with that. The state contemplates the first 4, but it's silent on the 5th. There's no guidance from the state on what we do when we combine 2 uses. Bristol's regulation attempts to deal with the addition of a second use to an existing auxiliary structure. We used to deal with that really nicely, actually in a very permissible way that would allow somebody who say wasn't resident on the property and wanted that ADU.
That's
to go
not an
forward.
ADU, that's something different, so.
So
let's get back to
confusion
ADUs.
is because in 2020, that section of the regs that allowed for conditional consideration of, well, you don't quite meet the standards for an ADU, but you might go forward if we have a little review of how you're gonna do it.
John,
So where the state would prevent the property owner from developing the ADU if it doesn't meet the criteria on an occupation, for example. Bristol's regs, at least as they were before 2020, would not shut down that property. There would be a path forward for them.
So,
And so the thing is, our regs recognize what you guys refuse to recognize, which is auxiliary structure and auxiliary dwelling unit are two different things.
No, no,
It's
I
two
recognize
uses.
that.
And so when they're added, our regs used to recognize that
So-
there needed to be a little bit more review for that more intense use. So I think it would
so-
clarify some things.
But how would that be clarified, John? That's what I'm wondering. Like,
We would
what,
have a
how
way
do
of
we
dealing-
move forward? What would be the solution for that? I don't care what was
There's a couple of different ways.
5-6 years ago,
You can
whatever.
do it a couple
20 years
different
ago.
ways. And if you want to have that conversation now, great, or we can flag it for
I
later.
think,
But
I think we're getting off topic.
But there are ways to do it, and one is more regulatory and one is more advisory, so it could be.
Okay, so
You know,
if we're getting off topic, when we do circle back to this, if you could have. What a solution would be to clarify where guidance is missing, that'd be good.
Good, and what
Thank you.
I would think it would clarify the conversation that I witnessed from the last meeting, that I'm sorry, I missed that part of the meeting. If I think you guys are off base when you assume that an ADU trumps the auxiliary structure use. And those are two uses, two impacts the town needs to
we did the
recognize.
same.
So here's what 4412 says, John. You know, I didn't finish my point
I
a
like
while
to
back.
finish what you were going on there. I think-
Yeah,
I think
so-
we're going a good place.
So anyway, 4412 says the criteria for conversion of an existing detached non-residential building to a habitable space for an accessory dwelling unit shall not be more restrictive than the criteria, which I believe that is open to interpretation of a single family. So they recognize that. It sounds to me like they recognize if you're gonna put an ADU in a non-residential, non-habitable space, then you can do that.
But
so-
that is a specific, what they're not addressing in that. I agree with you on that. I agree that if you take a barn and you make the whole barn an ADU, no problem. And that's clear in the regs. What's not clear is if they take a barn and on one level, it's a barn and then they add an ADU on top. That's two new uses. And it has more potential impact. And we used to regulate that, or it didn't come up that much back then, so we really didn't. But the mechanism, the process was there for dealing with that, where now it isn't, and the bifurcation of that rule leaves confusion.
So what I had started to say is 4412 talks about existing accessory structures. Our regulation talks about using new ADUs and new accessory structures, which is less restrictive, I believe. My position is it's less restrictive because all of a sudden you can have an existing or a new with an ADU in it. And then in the regs, there are clear setback requirements to follow. If you put in a new accessory structure and use an ADU in it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't catch that.
So 4412 talks about an existing detached non-residential building. You can put an ADU in it. So if I was a single family house, I'm not, but if I was, I could go in my barn and put an ADU in it.
No problem.
But if I didn't have a barn, I was a single family house and I didn't have a barn, this does not allow me to build a barn and put an ADU in it.
It doesn't speak to that at all. It doesn't
Correct.
allow you or disallow
Doesn't allow you. So
you. Or
there-
disallow you.
No, if it doesn't allow you,
It doesn't
then
allow,
it's,
but it's this
it's,
one.
it's disallowed.
So then your
But-
position is that somebody who came along and handed in an application to build a brand new barn, workshop underneath it with a brand new ADU on top, that would be an immediate no.
So at the end of section 404, it goes down through. The whole thing occupies building or the owners on site. Sufficient wastewater. Needs to be clearly subordinate. Accessory unit does not exceed greater 30% of 900 feet. Accessory dwelling shall be the lesser number of bedrooms, new construction in the village planning area, new construction. shall be set back from the property line at least 20 feet greater than the main single-family dwelling. That C talks directly to building. Accessory structure, putting an ADU in it. And the new construction shall have a height of the main structure. And then at the end, it says, and this what started the conversation, all accessory dwelling units, new or existing, must meet the above conditions to be permitted. So the way my position is, 4412 says you can only use an existing accessory structure for an ADU. Our regs say you can use an existing or new structure, accessory structure for an ADU. Which is less restrictive than saying you can only use it for conversion of an existing.
Or are you going towards, because it's less restrictive, we can put some restrictions on it more than?
Yeah.
It'll still be less restrictive,
Yeah.
right?
So if you build it new, here's the parameters, you put the
And
parameters
that would
in.
include lighting, sound, all sorts of stuff that bother neighbors.
Well, I don't know if you could go that far, because
It's
then
not
it's
a
performance,
single family home.
that's
But
performance.
this is less restrictive still.
That would be
One
more
thing-
restricted.
Then a single.
Maybe adding a little more restriction, but overall, I'm still be less restrictive. It's
So
not
are
even
you
in
talking
state.
about new construction or existing?
New,
Yeah, okay, yeah, I mean, you gotta be,
just new.
you gotta.
And can we remember that there's more than the zoning board gets to say to an applicant than yes or no? That's not how it works. It's not just all yes.
It's
or all-
review. It's no, it's a review. It's not, we
excuse me.
design it for you.
You're right. No, but it is a
It's
collaborative.
yes, no. Check the
Have you been
box,
through
yes,
the-
no.
Have you been through the zoning process as an applicant?
Fortunately, no,
Okay,
because there's a lot of that stuff.
Okay,
that happens
let's-
that-
let's-
Right, well,
I wanna,
it's been very helpful. And so what happens in those meetings in reality, since you don't know in personal experience,
Oh.
is, well, do you know from personal experience?
I've seen that, John. I have
Okay.
not been
Okay, so maybe.
an
you know.
applicant.
All right, very good. So you
so I'm gonna,
I'm just gonna say that there's more than yes or no. Boards routinely make suggestions that improve projects. Oh, we see you're proposing this kind of, say, lighting plan. This, maybe you could do it better. It's not a no, it's a, can you consider this, please? And the applicant does it not because of the threat that we might say no, but because it's a collaborative process. That tends to improve
It's
those.
a form of extortion.
It is
really.
not.
You're not gonna get your
John,
permit.
John,
Oh,
okay,
well,
we're gonna wrap it up. Everybody's got 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes, everybody around the room to collect your thoughts and present them. Starting now, John.
I can tell you voted for Trump.
Actually, I didn't.
Done.
I did not.
You're going over the top here,
No.
Bob.
Well, do you have anything you want to close with?
Stated
Okay,
At least on this, John, many times. I think we've heard. it.
so,
Here's
Well. Patience.
persist.
Can we reschedule with Adam? I think. we
yeah,
really-
we're gonna have to.
Yes.
I think
But-
we need to do that, because to me, I feel like I still want a little more clarification. Between really what the state is saying, what we're saying, and where we're crossing hairs.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so, Slim,
Well, I'm still curious, interested in what you were talking about, that our regs with the new built ADU possibility are, you're saying, less restrictive because the state doesn't even mention it. Is this what I'm hearing correctly here? So what can, when we say less restrictive, what I've heard is a lot of times is that we cannot restrict these any different than a first single family dwelling, which we put very few restrictions on. But then I'm thinking, if we were already being less restrictive by even allowing it than the state, then why can't we, as John has mentioned these things, and I'm pretty much in agreement when he speaks about we're getting more crowded, why don't we have a little something about down lights so we don't bother neighbors? That's small things that would make it very nice for all the neighbors when you all of a sudden get a new house 10 feet from your borderline, which can be oppressive for some people. So let's try to do better. And if we're already, maybe this would get through the courts because we're less restrictive in even allowing it in the first place. Yes? Maybe? I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about.
okay, anything else?
Oh, not today, thanks.
Okay. How about you, Rob?
I hope from Adam, we can get some clarification on some of this stuff. I don't know if the state's working on any guidance for this. I can't imagine that we're the only municipality to come up against this since everything started with this stuff. I would hope that they would have some more guidance on what is allowable and not. But that's the only thing. Just, I'd like to be able to get it clear and say this is it.
Okay, anything else?
No,
Ellen, you've been awful quiet. Do you have any closing comments?
No, just that I'm catching up, trying to understand, because we've had good representation of multiple perspectives tonight, which is awesome. But yeah, no, nothing specific to add.
Okay, thank you. Michelle? Okay. Where are we?
Public comments?
So we will, I guess, table. Or skip over the rest of that due to, so we are down to public comment. Is there any public comment? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, take a motion to adjourn then.
motion to adjourn?
All those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay, thank you.